Hello, it's story time. The title of today's story is The Forgiving Forest. Are you ready? Let's begin. Once upon a time, deep in a beautiful forest, there lived a kind old tree named Ellie the Evergreen. She had stood tall for hundreds of years, watching over all the animals. Her roots stretched far and wide, always ready to help her forest friends whenever they needed her. One sunny morning, a little squirrel named Sammy was running happily with a handful of nuts he had gathered. But as he passed by Ellie's roots, bump, a clumsy little bunny named Bella accidentally knocked into him. Sammy's nuts tumbled everywhere. "Bella, look what you've done," Sammy squeaked angrily. "You ruined my whole morning." "I worked so hard for those nuts." Bella's ears drooped. "I'm really sorry, Sammy," she whispered. "It was an accident. Can I help you pick them up?" But Sammy crossed his tiny arms. "No, you've done enough. I'm never speaking to you again." Ellie, who had been watching, sighed and shook her branches. Ellie gently called out, "Sammy, why don't you come up here and sit on one of my branches for a minute?" Sammy climbed up, still grumbling. "What is it, Ellie?" Ellie smiled. "Do you know the story of the great river?" "It's an old tale, but one I think you should hear." Sammy loved stories, so he nodded, even though he was still upset. Ellie began. "Long ago, there was a river that flowed through this forest. All the animals loved drinking from it. But one day, two animals, Freddy the fox and Gracie the goose, began arguing. They both wanted to drink first. Their anger grew and grew until suddenly the river stopped flowing. It was as if the river could feel their anger, and it didn't want to give water anymore. The forest grew dry, the animals grew thirsty, and all because Freddy and Gracie refused to forgive each other." Sammy's eyes widened. "What happened next? Did the river ever come back?" Ellie nodded. "Yes, but only when Freddy and Gracie realized something very important." Ellie continued. "Freddy and Gracie learned to forgive each other. And do you know what happened? The river began to flow again. The trees stood tall. The grass turned green, and the whole forest was happy once more. They learned to forgive each other and be kind. Just like Ephesians 4:32 says, 'Be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, as God in Christ forgave you.'" Sammy thought about this. He looked down at Bella, who was still gathering his scattered nuts. She looked so sorry. He took a deep breath. "Ellie, I think I've been like Freddy the Fox. I wasn't kind or forgiving, was I?" Ellie smiled. "No one gets it right all the time, Sammy. But when you choose kindness and forgiveness, you bring life to others, just like the river." Sammy scurried down to Bella. "Hey, Bella," he said softly. "I'm sorry I got so mad. I forgive you, and thanks for helping me pick up my nuts." Bella's face lit up. "Thank you, Sammy. I'll be extra careful next time." From that day on, Sammy and Bella became the best of friends, and as they played under Ellie's branches, the forest seemed a little brighter, a little happier. The lesson of today's story is this: just like Sammy learned, it's important to be kind and forgiving, just as God is kind and forgiving to us. When we choose forgiveness, we make the world a better place. Thank you for joining Story Time today. I hope you enjoyed The Forgiving Forest. See you next time. Bye.